Is it possible to introduce just a slight change to your picking technique and see immediate improvement in speed and accuracy? Hi there, I'm Chris, and I'm here to tell you that the answer is yes, because if you've been practicing this kind of pentatonic picking, then what I'm going to show you today is going to take you to this. And if you've never practiced alternate picking, this knowledge is going to serve you very well further down the road and give you a big advantage. So let's go. I think most people who've ever practiced alternate picking, they're pretty much aware of like the motion mechanics. You should try to strive for really small movements. You shouldn't really be doing like a big arm movement, so like classic tremolo picking. And the reason being, that doesn't work when you start involving other strings. You're gonna kind of feel you're getting stuck between the strings, and there's really no precision there. So I think most people, they practice their wrist. That's how the perception that you're gonna achieve speed by practicing your wrist, and there seems to be some kind of consensus around that. And I pretty much agree with all of that. That's good stuff. However, there are more movements you can and should work on, simply because you're probably using them without being aware of them. And the danger with that is you're relying on something that you're never practicing. So I'm here to tell you, you really have to practice your thumb joint movement. Hold it, Chris. I don't need that. Never heard about that. Don't want to do that. So here's the thing. Even if you never heard about it, you're probably already doing it a little bit. Because this thumb joint movement kind of serves like oil in the machinery. I find that this is where the precision comes from. And if you're more precise when picking, not only are you gonna mess up less often, and it's gonna sound better, and it's gonna be perceived as cooler and faster, but you're also not gonna waste your precious motion and energy on unnecessary movement. You're gonna be precise, and you're just gonna work your way around the string the way you need to, and not more, so that you can be super effective and play faster and hit the right strings and the right notes. Sounds like a good deal to me, at least. So how is this done? So as I said, we're pretty much all doing this a little bit. Chances are, even if you think you're just using the wrist, you are probably making super tiny movement without thinking about it. And it's probably also true that many pro shredders use this movement without being aware of it. So even though you might have followed some, I don't know, some instructional video before, someone who's really skilled speaking about picking, might not have mentioned this as a thing, even though they might be using it. I'm just trying to prove my point here that this is good stuff, but you're gonna see it is good stuff. So, there are ways you can practice this, and there are ways I practice this because I do it on almost a daily basis. But first of all, the bulk of my picking movement in my most relaxed picking comes from the thumb joint. And I think you can almost see that. I'm gonna play a little bit. Can you see that my thumb is moving? I'm gonna exaggerate a little bit. There you have it. That's kind of where this movement comes into play. You can see it very clearly. But even when I'm not trying to showcase it, it's there for sure. You barely see it now, but I'm still using it. So this movement is critical to me when I'm shredding, and more importantly, when I realized this was a thing, it was a game changer. Not only because I saw instant improvement, but also because all of a sudden I knew what to practice. Before that, I was using the movement, but I had very little control of it because I didn't purposely practice it. So, how do you practice this movement? The idea is to isolate the movement from the wrist, right? Because if I told you start using the thumb joint when picking, you'd probably be doing something like, I don't know, something weird. it's hard to do that. So what you have to do is make sure your wrist isn't moving. And that can be done by anchoring your fingers on the guitar's body like this. So put your fingers here and try to pick. So, you know, you're not going to be able to use the wrist at all because you're anchoring, right? Now, I want to emphasize again, I'm not saying this is how you should pick from now on. I'm saying this is how you practice a specific movement, specific component, which is already a part of your picking, but you've never practiced it. So we're just going to isolate the movement for the sake of practicing it, not for the sake of starting to play like this, which to me doesn't make sense, okay? Just a clarification. So we're putting our fingers here so that you can start practicing the specific movement. And we're just gonna grab like a single note on the E string and try to play the 12th fret while anchoring with your right hand fingers. It might look a little bit weird when you're trying this for the first time, right? I don't know how it's gonna look, but it doesn't have to be a big movement, but if you've never done it, you should probably do a big movement just to do any movement. And then you can start gradually improving or minimizing the movement and make it more consistent. You don't want something which totally just moves over all over the place. You want something that is machine-like, that can be reproduced at a high tempo and basically a very small and efficient movement. And you can see the thumb joint is still moving. Okay, there we have it. Now, again, I'm not telling you need to start from scratch and play everything like that. I'm just telling you that if you're practicing alternate picking for 15 or 30 minutes every day, and you can start doing this for 2 minutes, that's gonna make a difference, okay? So let me just say that again. If you can isolate this movement and practice it just for a tiny short amount of time, it's going to have an impact on your playing. And it might even have a big impact. If you've never done this and you practice a lot of alternate picking, then we're speaking a few weeks of practice and you could be seeing big results. Again, if you've never practiced picking before, things take time. But I've personally seen students who are pretty skilled technically start introducing this and they're like, whoa, it's a big difference. But it's gonna feel really unnatural in the beginning. What's gonna happen is, without you even consciously thinking about it, you're gonna start to be a little bit more in control of, like I said, the precision bit of your picking is going to get a boost from this. And precision is really what you need when moving between strings and also when you're trying to minimize your movement. And further down the road, what's going to happen is this little precision movement is actually going to be able to boost your speed, because you're going to have, I'm exaggerating now, you're going to have this movement, right? Going back and forth. And then you're also going to have this movement. And they're going to work in conjunction to give you a speed boost. Which is why you see some shredders like Yngwie when he plays on one string, or there are tons of different examples. People who use this to give that extra edge of speed. So this kind of movement is awesome, not just for precision, but for boosting your speed. So to me, it's definitely a game changer if you've never done this before. Okay, so try just getting that movement. You want to maybe rewind the video a little bit and just try to get that movement down using one note. You might want to introduce some kind of more advanced exercise. Could be any exercise of your choice, as soon as you're in control of that one note. Now, I would like to show you just the kind of pattern I played at the beginning of the video, which is a super basic pentatonic 4-note pattern. So doing 15 on the E string, pull off to 12, and then 15 on the B string, and then back to 12 on the E string. So 15, 12, 15, 12. Now, this kind of thing, I play this using 2 consecutive upstrokes. this might seem really weird to you, and I'm not telling you that this is the way you should do it. But I am telling you that I could never do this without this thumb joint movement. So I played like this. So you can see 2 upstrokes in a row. I'm going to tab this for you with the upstrokes and a guitar profile so you can just really practice this and see what's going on. But if I weren't using this movement, and I've seen this when I try to explain this to students who are not aware of the thumb joint, it just seems totally impossible, right? They want to go around the string, and the thing is, the wrist movement doesn't really allow you to quickly move back and forth between strings. It's not precise enough for that. You really need help from this extra thumb joint movement, and it is going to be there to serve you well if you can just get your head around it. Okay, so I think this is enough for a starter. I mean, this is a really big topic, lots of things you can do with this. Some players like to only rely on this movement, so you actually see more of this movement than from the wrist movement. But again, all these movements are happening even though you can't see them. It just doesn't make sense to not at all use one of them. It's a bit like you're going to build a house, but for some reason you skip the hammer, right? You need all the tools, but it can be a little hard to decipher exactly what is being used. Sometimes you see more of this movement, most times you probably see more of this movement. And there are other interesting topics here because these muscles and the arm muscle need to be involved as well. So big topic, but I would single out what I've told you here as probably the most important detail which most people miss, but that can make a huge difference. So check out the link below where I will tab the specific exercise so you can start working on it. And let me know if this is working out for you or if I can clarify anything. You've been a fantastic audience. Thank you so much. I've been Christopher Dahl. See ya. Cheers.